So this is how Italy deals with a major crisis. And now, let's show you how New York City is dealing with it. You gotta love New Yorkers. And now, New Yorkers are directly under attack. There's quarantines, there's checkpoints, there's National Guard going house to house, looking down for the scrum, like myself, a fellow New Yorker, all throughout the country. Welcome. This is Luke Radowski of We Are Change, joined today by John Snyson and Tim Pichette, where we are going to be going over all the most important updates when it comes to, of course, the sickness that is spreading everywhere. Outside of the economic news, which we covered previously before, which you could watch on the previous videos, this will just be about the social and political commentary that's happening. Now, I want to start off, of course, talking about my hometown, New York City, that just recorded 161 more deaths from this sickness in the last 24 hours. Obviously, New York City is the most heavily hit. It's a very close-knit area with a big public transportation system. It has a lot of people living on top of each other. And of course, it is way more affected than cities like Los Angeles, where, of course, more people keep distance from each other. But with New York City becoming in the new epicenter, some people even saying the next Wuhan, we have other states taking notice, and states like Rhode Island are issuing orders to stop all New Yorkers from New York City and to go house to house looking for them to make sure that they are quarantining. Very, very strong actions in Rhode Island, actions that have been met now by Florida, since, of course, New Yorkers also love Florida. Now, now police officers in Florida are setting up checkpoints on I-95, screening New York passengers, which, again, to me is an absolute ridiculous idea. Because
isn't that like stop and frisk?
Yeah. It's like they adopted stop and frisk naturally now against New York City residents, and we can't get away from it. And again, to me, this is not a good idea, mainly because how will you enforce this? I mean, you stop people. I mean, it sounds like a logistical nightmare, especially with the fact of officers going up to people who are most likely contagious, most likely just had this virus, and of course infecting other police officers. And to me, this is not going to be a good plan that's going to work out. I know we got to take a lot of preventative measures, a lot of smart measures, but this to me is not one of them. Public education, information is key here, and that's what should be the appropriate steps taken here. Even Donald Trump talked about a potential...
Well, at least the cops will have their I Can Breathe shirts this time, and maybe we'll see if they can help breathe.
Yeah, that's a whole other argument that we could get into. But Donald Trump even said that he could potentially quarantine all of New York City from the rest of the world, including parts of New Jersey and Connecticut. This, of course, led the New York governor to say if he does so, it will mean a war. And after that threat by the New York governor, Donald Trump now is backing down from his statements about possibly quarantining New York. Now, of course, we don't know what the right answer here is throughout this latest crisis. We're just reporting to you what is happening and all the latest
more government.
For me, that New York part is the most important part. Now, I want to throw it to Tim or John to talk about their most the aspects of this story that they find most important.
Yeah, I think more government. That's the answer. I mean, government's the question. What's the answer? I mean, just anytime anything goes wrong, I think we just need more government, Luke. Obviously, I'm being facetious with this, but if we go on screen right now, I think the most important thing that I've recognized is that this virus pulls into question the 21st feudalism in the 21st century. There was Friedrich Hayek wrote a book called The Road to Serfdom, and that's pretty much where we're on right now. And they're using this crisis and not letting it go to waste. And you've got guys like who is Timothy Geithner, a former Fed Treasury dude, who was saying that. In the last 2008, he goes, well, these crises allow us to do things that we normally couldn't, so we can't let it go to waste. Obviously, Rahm Emanuel said the same thing. Here we go. A flu pandemic was ravaging the world, killing indiscriminately in almost every country, including more than 600,000 deaths in the United States. The states were in a panic, but there was almost no call for broad federal assistance, at least not one heeded by the president. And they're talking about they're going back to Woodrow Wilson's days, which he's a key figure in how we got the Federal Reserve to begin with. Whole nother story. Woodrow Wilson did not address the nation on the subject of the pandemic of 1918 to 1919 at a single time. He did not call for Congress to act, and he did not summon the nation to unite. He had another battle to fight in trying to bring World War I to a close, even though the flu killed far more people. And it goes on to say the feud with states boiled over Thursday when Trump got into a contentious exchange with several governors. States are demanding more sweeping help from the say in air quotes, from the federal government to battle an insidious challenge the founders never knew existed, a global public health crisis. It calls into question how well a system of feudalism where power is legally shared between a national government and the states can work when the needs are so urgent and the politics so polarized. The virus has seeped into states blue and red, hitting Louisiana as hard as it hits California, and there are stark warnings coming from swing states like Michigan, Florida, and Pennsylvania too. And so this, does bring into question. I mean, everybody wants, other, mayors of New Orleans and other places are saying, oh, this is Trump's fault because Trump didn't go and he didn't close everything down. Well, how about people take I think if decentralization is the answer on every single level. And so everybody thinks there's this one boogeyman up top and that one person's to dictate how everything goes. And that is exactly what is wrong with everybody. It's exactly what's wrong with this entire system. It was not meant to have, they want this one Superman or Iron Man or that's why you have these comic book characters, because everybody wants one person to fix everything.
Yeah, this is the problem. Everyone is looking for someone else to fix the problem. No one is responsible for themselves. This is why China handled this as poorly as they did, because they just threw it down the line to the other person, covered it up, kept it secret, put in jail journalists and doctors who were warning the world about this. And again, everyone was just waiting for someone else to do something. And again, that's not the reality that we live in. We live in a reality where you are responsible for yourself and no one else. And sadly, other people give up their power, their sovereignty to other creatures. And then we have this kind of misguided approach. And Donald Trump, in the beginning, definitely wasn't taking this serious. So was it the mainstream media. Some independent media, some doctors, some researchers were. And we were warning the world about this. And sadly, this could have been avoided. And that's the bigger truth here that people should also understand. John, what's some of the news that you're seeing that sticks out to you surrounding all the latest updates?
Well, there's lots of action over in Europe, of course, with Italy just closed their even municipality and county. It's similar to the county borders in the U.S. So nobody could travel across even county limits. So they're really limiting it down to stop the spread there. And also in Germany, they just instated that, only 2 people could gather outside at the time. In Spain, for example, you have people not being able to go into their backyards. They're getting chased back in by the police. In Norway, they had 5 people or more. So I guess what's interesting, they did come out right after and say, families can go outside together. Because they didn't think that far that somebody would have more than 4 kids.
They're absolute idiots. Sorry to cut you off, John, but I remember seeing another clip of UK police. Of course, in the UK, they're the most Orwellian next to the Chinese, but they were flying a drone, and there was this huge national park, and there was like 2 people walking their dog, totally empty field. And they were like, look at these criminals. We should find them. We should throw them in jail because they're not following. I mean, they're in nature, you stupid idiots. Yeah. And this is the same governments that's telling you, don't wear masks. Everything's fine. This is just like the flu. Don't worry about it. That's the same government that now
the air's safe to breathe after 9/11.
Reaching their balance and punishing people for walking in nature. Are you freaking kidding me?
Well, we're actually
people in their backyards. Are you freaking kidding me?
Yeah.
Sorry,
No
John.
problem. No, we're seeing this right now here in Manitoba as well. They shut down one of our national parks here. Nobody could get into the national park, even though they have cottages there that are privately owned. And then, of course, they went from 50 people gatherings now down to 10 people gatherings starting from Monday up. So that's going to put, crazy pressure on stores and everything, and just going to be a mayhem. So I just did a massive shop again just to have for a month or so plus more, because you never know. Like, at least, what's funny is if you go to a local store here, you take a look, like, people are individually responsible on the countryside because they have to live independently and, live off of the land, most people here, and, are not as, dependent on the big stores to get food. So you've seen that in a way better way over here on the countryside. There was no big signs, there was no control measures to let in X amount of people in the store. Everybody kept their distance. Everybody was good, preventative measures are getting put in. But you've seen that, the huge difference between that and the cities where they basically limited in a massive store. Like, this is Cabela's, a big firearms and outdoor store. they limited it to 20 people at the time. And I was going in there, you could at least have like 60, 70 people in there with,
Oh, those stores are
distancing.
massive. Those are massive
Yeah,
stores.
yeah. So again, I think it's mostly because of, nobody wants everybody to buy guns and ammunition. They want to make it really hard on people, probably here in Canada.
Same thing in California.
they
Same in
closed
California.
down, they actually closed down the chief firearms office here, so nobody could get what we call restricted weapons here, like semi-automatics and pistols and handguns. So it's very interesting how they like kind of semi-ban things. They make it really hard for you and basically impossible to get restricted firearms here in the province that I live right now.
Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely insane. And we're seeing very similar measures all throughout the country, as, of course, they're also releasing prisoners since, of course, this virus is spreading like rapid fire all throughout prisons. And the situation in those institutions is just absolutely insane. I have a friend in jail now. He's telling me the conditions there, they're freaking crazy. And they're telling people in some states like New York, hey, if you're a prison guard, you can't wear a face mask. Don't wear a face mask. You will be fired if you wear a face mask. There's many employers doing this. Again, face masks have stopped the spread of previous influenzas, almost stopped it dead in its feet in Hong Kong and many other Asian countries that are having an easier time dealing with this. Why? Because people there usually wear masks. Now, that's just one factor out of many factors, but that's a big freaking factor when you look at the effects that having a mask has compared to not wearing a mask. And then we have the World Health Organization, the CDC, the Surgeon General, and all these other idiots saying, don't worry, you don't need a mask. Idiots, absolute idiots. You're asymptomatic. A lot of people are with this thing, and they're spreading it without even knowing it. It's like they just want to make this as worst as possible. And I'm going to be making a whole video about the World Health Organization and how they can't even recognize Taiwan, but they want to be the World Health Organization because of their obvious, close, very bastardized ties to China that's responsible for a large portion of this virus getting out and infecting and hurting so many people. And again, let's not be afraid here to criticize China, because China has a big responsibility and a big burden here. That's my take on it. I don't have nothing else to say. If you guys have anything else to say it now.
Well, it reminds me of when you've got Saudi Arabia and like Iran were on the head of like the Human Rights Council at the UN, which
Saudi Arabia,
Saudi Arabia. Well, I was saying it's definitely Saudi Arabia was one of them, but yeah, it's a whole wanted to throw North Korea in there too while they're at it. But right now you mentioned prisons. Well, one guy that wants to turn all of U.S. into an entire prison planet would be Bill Gates. So Bill Gates backs $1 billion plan to cover the Earth in video satellites, and this will be second-by-second data. So what they're really trying to do with this is say, oh, we see these stock criminals. We've got these two people in a park over here, and we'll have the AI, go send a drone. And I mean, I'm just, extrapolating out where it could be in a dystopic future. But if anyone doesn't think we're headed towards a dystopic future right now, then then what more news do you have? Because they think that we're peddling some sort of like fear porn over here. But they want to have $1 billion to go cover the Earth in satellites. But some of the other, just quickly looking at some of the other articles here, we have. In Sicily, they're cracking down on looting because people can't even eat over there. And that they've actually let in lots of refugees over there, which is another reason why it helps spread. You've got plastic money, which is now doing better than some of the paper money. I've seen some people make jokes and saying maybe they should just make the dollar bill a little bit softer. That way it'd have some dual usage as a...
Yeah, we can't even use our money as toilet paper or polymer notes here, so it's kind of useless.
I know. There's and then I guess the last thing I want to show you guys is I just planted this the other day, so I actually have my own tower garden. It's an aeroponic tower garden that I have. I've had it for several years, but it's been in storage. But I thought, if I don't put it out now, when am I ever going to put it out? So I'm doing my part over here to try to, if worst comes to worst, I can grow my own food. I think you guys should be doing the same thing over there. And and you can do this indoors. They have different light setups. You can, it doesn't really take up that much space. So there are, innovative ways, to do things going. So that's why these people talking about, oh, well, there's not enough room in the planet and, we can't feed everybody. Well, if everybody did things like this, there's more than enough space and more than enough innovative ways where we can feed the planet. They just want to, have it be through Monsanto where they've got to, carpet bomb everybody with their, no, that was their Agent Orange who Monsanto was also behind. Yeah. But yeah, they want to have everybody get spread with glyphosate and Roundup. It's just a complete prison planet we're living underneath, and things are just getting crazier and crazier.
Well,
John?
what we need to do is we need to be more independent of the state. And the problem is every single thing is, the government is the solution. And we need more government instead of thinking about, if everybody.
Freedom's the answer. What's the question?
Yeah. We're going back to the Great Depression. People, about 90% of people were self-sufficient at the time, where 10% of people lived in the cities. Well, now we're total flip opposite, and the problem.
Well, now we're eating Tide Pods. Yeah, now the millennials are eating Tide Pods. So I mean, look at the
Tide Pods instead of real pods, pea pods and so on, that is nutritious. So it's the problem here is that people are gotten away from we've been so dependent on government for so long that we've totally forgotten that we could be independent and actually rely on ourselves and to our local communities. Being local, more localized and working on a governance structure on a local scale versus the federal or the state levels. We need the low, small, tiny little autonomous regions all around the world, and that I think is the solution, is to be completely independent of politics or any of that garbage, and then use your own mediums of exchange at local levels, or be involved in society and be friends with your neighbors. Because if you're not, you're gonna end up like in New York, where you yell at each other.
That's some fine American culture right there. Don't you dare disrespect it, you Canuck, or else I'm gonna come up there and just show you some ganoush.
I'm Norwegian. Come on.
I'm technically from upstate New York, so I don't know if
I'll come and pillage New York. Watch it.
Yeah, good luck with that one. All right, that's it for today. Thank you guys so much for watching. Stay tuned for more here on Change the News channel.